William and a possible book story ending. First, this is just a theory, so technically not a spoiler, but it could be down the road, so proceed with caution. If you were in my live yesterday with Elizabeth, we talked about my previous video that William is a parallel figure for James the Greater. We also talked about the ransom theory, which is Jesus made a bargain with the devil to take on the sins of the world. Ransom theory being a nod to William's last name, and James the Greater was the first apostle to be martyred for following Jesus. I was rereading and making notes in book 1 because, Boomy ate my original copy. He's lucky he's cute. I know we all know this scene from the show, but it actually happens in the books as well. It's just explained a little differently. Frank and Claire are on their way to the pub and are having a conversation regarding the blood on the stoops of the buildings. Now, I think most of us would have assumed that it was similar to that during Passover, where people marked up their front doors with an X with lamb's blood so their firstborn would not be taken. Frank goes on to talk about St. Oran and how he was buried alive. Here's more background to that story. St. Oran was one of 12 followers that followed St. Columba from Ireland to Iona, Scotland. Columba was trying to build a church, and each time he started the foundation, he would come back the next morning and it would have crumbled. Columba heard a voice telling him that he needed a human sacrifice in order to keep the foundation standing. St. Oran volunteered to be the human sacrifice buried alive. On the third day, it is said that Oran sat up and said, "There is no hell as you suppose, nor heaven that people talk about." He was recovered with dirt, and the building stood. If you remember, Frank told Claire a story where men on construction sites, who were usually not very popular, were pushed off of the roof and buried underneath the foundation of the buildings as the sacrifice. In modern day, they would just mark up the houses with the blood of a black cock. Now, what does any of this have to do with William? The story of St. Oran has to do with 2 Bible verses. In Joshua 6:26, after he conquered Jericho, he was pronounced a curse on anyone who would attempt to rebuild its foundations or its gates. In quotes, "Cursed before the Lord is the man who rises up and rebuilds this city, Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn shall he lay its foundation, and at the cost of his youngest shall he set up its gates." In 1 Kings 16:34, 5 centuries later, Hiel attempted just that, and the prophecy was fulfilled by losing both his firstborn and his youngest. When Jamie and Claire escaped Scotland to France, they were laying the foundation of their family with Faith, who passed away during childbirth. That leads me to believe William, being the youngest, may also die because they parallel this story. What amazes me about finding this is that when Diana wrote the first book, we know that it was never meant to be a series when she started out. The fact that she might have been able to tie this storyline from further down in the series to the first book just blows my mind. So what do you think? Do you think I'm on something? Do you disagree? Do you hate this theory? Let me know in the comments.